One day I'll get better lighting so you don't see my frickin' shadow moving all around, but for now, we're doing a oldish game review on the Sega Nomad. As you can tell, this is a brick. There's no way getting around that. You've probably heard of this. This is basically a portable Sega Genesis. It even says Sega Genesis Nomad on the back, and what you had to do to even make this portable was to get a battery pack or a power pack and strap it onto the back like a backpack and carry it around. But this was a portable Sega Genesis. Nowadays you might as well emulate stuff, but for me I always like playing video games on like hardware that they were built for, and it seems to always run smoother and better anyways. And essentially this is just the Genesis put into a box and put a screen on it. It even has a TV out and a plug where you can play two-player, which I think is really cool. However, there are some downsides. One, back when this came out, it was fairly expensive, and nowadays it's still fairly expensive for what it does. Two, you then need to get a fairly expensive pack to even make it portable, so you're stuck with just plugging it into the, or you're stuck with just using a DC adapter. Okay, I thought it was AC, but we're going with DC now. AC-DC. This one is made in Taiwan, which back in the 90s, it seems like electronics were made in Japan, so I guess this was starting the trend of everything being made in Taiwan and China, except it might have had something to do with this being only really released in America, because again it's called the Genesis Nomad, and the Genesis was only called Genesis in North America as far as I know. So it could have been made in Taiwan because this was a Sega North America thing and not a Japan thing, because if it was a Japan thing it was probably made in Japan for back then when everything was made in Japan. With that being said, it does feel high quality, as a brick should be, and it has the 6 buttons instead of just 3, so you can play practically any Genesis game on this. It is slightly uncomfortable for my hands because it's brick, and I think these are 2 different modes. For small hands you put your hand here and you play it like this, or you can put your hand all the way back and you try to play it with this. Actually it could be because your thumb's too long. I'm not quite sure how that works. The D-pad, however, is amazing. I thought I was going to hate this. I think this was kind of what the Gamecom was going for, but they failed at it completely. On the Sega Nomad, however, they did an amazing job. It feels even better than the Genesis controllers, and I really like that style of D-pad. I never thought I would, but it feels really cool. The one on the Vita feels not similar. The one on the Vita feels more clicky, but it feels as like definite, I guess, because you just have to slightly move it and it moves, and yeah, they're just both really great directional things. It only has one speaker hole, and it's not lying to you by just putting some sort of weird, fake speaker thing on this side. The light above me is reflecting off it. You have a mode and start button. I'm not really sure what the mode button does. I could have sworn the mode button was for if you only had a 3-button controller and you needed to switch to these buttons, but you have all these buttons, so I'm not quite sure what that does. Is that a headset plug? I think that's a headset plug. Phones? Hang on. Yeah, that's a headset plug and that's a volume control. There's a contrast switch somewhere on here. There it is. And then the power switch, which is bright red, so you can't miss it on the big black box. Now this was refurbished online, and I think it was $90-something, which, again, as I said earlier, that is quite expensive for playing Genesis games, not really on the go, especially since I already have a Genesis. However, I'm really into this kind of stuff. I have the DC adapter next to me, and I'm going to show you some games that basically I have to play on this to just prove to you that this really can do anything a Genesis can. Now, another problem I have with this though is I haven't really gotten a plug that perfectly fits in here, or even like the one that came with it. This is supposed to be the same plug that Genesis, the second model of the Genesis, uses. However, when you plug it in, it wobbles, and if you just go boom, sometimes the screen just flicks off, and you lose all your progress in a lot of games because a lot of old games around that generation didn't have a save feature. Okay, so we do have power. Anything I've been able to throw at it, by the way, does work on it, because again, it's just really a Genesis in a box with a old 90s screen on it. People say it suffers from ghosting, but I think it's 1,000 times better than the Game Gear, and it seems like to be one of the best screens for the time back then. I actually thought the refurbishing people put like a modern screen in it. I went to the game store and asked the dude, is this how the screen's supposed to look? Or our local game store. He's like, yeah, it looks like how it should. So, yeah, I think that's a really nice screen for the time. First off, let's play some Phantasy Star 4. This is basically the big RPG of the console. Meant to combat Final Fantasy, for what I know. You can see my reflection there. Turn down the volume in case that blocks out my talking. The long, long struggle of ancient times, something, I missed it. So as you can tell, the screen is in color. It has a nice light to it, and you can see it quite clearly, except I'm sort of reflecting off it right now. Here are the other people's save files. I'm here in the game. So yeah, if you can't tell, there is very slight ghosting in it, but I think it works really well for the time, especially if you've ever played a Game Gear or really any other portable console from the 90s. You have major problems. But I really just want to show this off because, this would probably be one of the biggest games you would want to play on this, from what I can tell, because RPGs are usually something I want to play on the go, so just kill these worm things. I'm not sure if they have a name. Don't yell at me. So that's Phantasy Star 4. Probably one of the games you would really want to play on the Nomad. But can it survive some of the games that really push the Genesis to its limits? Now, I don't have many games like that. I have more of the... Since I just recently got the Genesis over the summer, I have more of the games that everyone tells you to get, and some of the rarer games that everyone still tells you to get. So right now we're going to play Gunstar Heroes, which did have some slowdown on the Genesis, so I'm not going to say this isn't going to have any slowdown. I'm not sure if we'll get to any points in the game where there would be slowdown. By the way, yes, they do stick up like that. It couldn't be any more portable than that, can it? Here, now you could probably see where there is slight ghosting. It's not, super amazing, but again, it looks very clear, and especially since you only really play Genesis on a standard definition screen, it looks really clear on this bright screen that, again, is definitely not an HD screen, but it sort of resembles one to me because it's one of these bright colored screens, I guess I could say. Let's just do the first mission and I'll show you some shooting and crap. Now everything explodes in this game. If you can see I'm shooting. It looks actually better off screen where you can tell you're shooting. I'm surprised you can't tell. I'm looking through the viewfinder and you can't even see your shots on the viewfinder, but I swear it's easier in real life. Here you can probably see the blurriness is actually coming from the screen shaking in this game. Like the screen shaking effects, not the not the console itself. It's still quite blurry, but it's still playable, and I think it, again, is much better than any other console or portable console that I've played from the time. Especially if you saw that review of the Gamecom. Holy crap, if you play any game that is not just like a puzzle game on that, and it's just like the blurriest thing in the world. And again, how come we could pull this off in the 90s, but yet, what was it, the Gamecom was like in the early 2000s? That blows my mind, how the Gamecom was like as big as a Game Gear, but it was a black and white screen with no lights. But we're not going to keep hating on the Gamecom. This is the Nomad. So yeah, it's playable. I'm going to switch games before my neck breaks because I'm just standing over a bed with a camera. Now, I'm not sure how much this pushed the limits, but I thought it would be really funny to play this. Zero Tolerance, which is sort of a, I guess, Doom ripoff. It's a first-person shooter for the Genesis. Now, if anyone knows, the Genesis is a 16-bit console that came out right before the Super Nintendo. So, not right before, a year or two before, I think. But, yeah, so we're looking at that kind of time period right now. Just imagine a first-person shooter on a home console. That's even bigger, by the way. It's amazing. Let's get it in there correctly, though. There we go. It's not working? Okay. The joys of old cartridge games. So yeah, this came out right after Doom, and I think it was only released on the Genesis. You can get it for like $3 or so. It's very cheap. And I think it was like super mass produced. But it's just pretty funny playing a first-person shooter on a Genesis. But now I'm playing it on a portable Genesis, which is even more amazing. I forget which button shoot. That button shoot. Crap. Okay. It's not really slowing down. The game is just this uncontrollable on everything. Oh, is the mode button switch weapons? I forget how to switch weapons. Okay. I don't know why I'm subjecting myself to this. I don't really like playing this game on the console. Ah! Crap. I'm just sort of getting shot around. Okay, well that's Zero Tolerance. We'll just leave that over there. And the Sega Genesis Nomad. I'm just going to call it the Nomad. I don't know why they put Genesis on that. As you can tell, if you think it's stupid right now, you probably will never want one. If you think it's cool right now, you probably want one. Because really, I think it's just one of those weird things where you just have to buy it because you think it's cool. Because nowadays you can just buy sort of a PSP or something like that and play emulators of the games, or even on your iPhone now. This is very ergonomic, but it's not very portable, and that really takes away all the point of a portable console, and I think that's why these didn't sell too well. I think it came out in '95. I'll put in the description if they did not come out in '95, the Nomad here. But there's my $100 brick. I hope you guys liked this video. If I would have to rate it for the time and for what it did, I mean, it would be a 10 out of 10 because it's the only thing that did it. But for the time and for like just having fun on a portable console, I'd probably give this just straight 6 out of 10 because it's very bulky. It is not portable in the slightest. It's fairly heavy. However, the screen is good and the D-pad's good, and again, it's the only way to play Genesis games on the go back then. So it does what it advertises to do, and it does it pretty well. Unless it ever said portable, because that was that's the 4 points that I want to mark off of it, is just screaming portable or making it seem portable. It's kind of just a novelty in a way. Again, a million times better than the Gamecom. Actually, I don't think there's anything worse than the Gamecom that was mass produced. See you guys next time.
What you want, what you want. Come on. What you want, what you want. Come on.